All right, welcome everyone to this week's episode of The Career Climb. If is your first time seeing the show, The Career Climb is where we spark conversations with executives and industry leaders, and they share their perspectives on leadership and workplace culture. And we do that through real life cases, not theory or hypotheticals. And I honestly can't wait for you to meet tonight's guest, Mykel Davis, and she's going to dig into this week's case study with me. But if we have yet to meet, this is the first time you're seeing my face. My name is Julia Rock, and I am your host this evening. And I am the founder and CEO at Rock Career Development. We are a Houston based consulting firm, and we help organizations reduce turnover and increase long term growth through leadership development solutions. And so, simply put, we make your leaders better so that your people want to stay and you make more money. And so, again, I'm just excited about you being here tonight. If you want to catch up on this episode and all past episodes after this, you can connect with me here on LinkedIn, or you can go to our YouTube playlist at rockcareer.com/CC archive. And tonight, we're going to keep the conversation as interactive as possible. So please go ahead and talk to us in the chat. Let us know where it is that you are watching from. If you have questions, because tonight's topic, I think, is a little bit juicy. So please feel free to share your thoughts, ideas, and questions for myself and our special guest, Mykel, in the chat. But the time is here. I've done all the preamble. So I'm ready for you to meet tonight's special guest, Mykel Davis, as we dig into balancing life and leadership and really thinking about how you can build success as a leader on your own terms. So let me go ahead and bring Mykel up. Welcome to the show, lady.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to have you join us this evening. This is a hot topic, girl. I just want to let you know that ahead of time.
Yes.
Before we hop in, though, I want to make sure that we let the viewers know exactly who Mykel B. Davis is. I want to make sure that people know who the expert is we're talking to.
Oh, thank you for having me, Julia. I'm Mykel B. Davis. I'm the founder and CEO of Muscle Up Mommy. I created this entire ecosystem of products and resources for moms in all stages of motherhood. I'm also the creator of the first Black-owned wearable breast pump. It's the J35 wearable, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh man, all right, doing big things in the tech space, especially. Yes. And I would love to. I see that we've got Paul who joined us in the chat. Thank you, Paul, for joining us this evening. And so I want to ask you, Mykel, so why do you think we need to have this conversation about like balancing life and leadership from I mean, there's obviously a lot of interest that from the moment I posted this, folks were like, we need this, let's talk. But I
Yeah.
want to get your perspective on why this is important or why we need to have this conversation.
I think it's very important because there are a lot of different nuances, especially when it comes to balancing motherhood and leadership and how much free time you have. And I also think it's a little bit taboo of where there's not conversation around what it's like being the default parent, what it's like being, someone who wants to be full-fledged in their career, but also have to balance little babies and breastfeeding and things of that sort. So just being able to open that dialogue so that other people know that, hey, if you are going through something, you're not alone in this experience. And there are ways to overcome hurdles that you are faced with.
I love that, and I think you're hitting on the idea that it's not an easy thing, right? When you are the default parent and you're trying to build your career, and sometimes I feel that parents, mothers, they just feel alone in the journey. Like, does anybody get it? So I love the fact that you're like, hey, you're not out on an island
You're
by
not by
yourself.
yourself.
And so feeding into that, though, what would you say are some of the misconceptions? I know personally that I'm not a mother, but I've seen in the office that sometimes there are different expectations of parents or people who have different lifestyles, and maybe they're not the person who can sit and work all day. So are there any misconceptions that you would say when it comes to balancing life and leadership?
Yes, I would say that there are several. I think that there's a misconception that there is a lot of free time after work if you are in the corporate space. Like if you're getting off at 5, there's a hard stop, and it's not. It's literally going from the office, and your second job starts when you walk in the front door. And if you're someone in entrepreneurship, it's like an around the clock thing. And I think that there are a lot of different ideas that mom can only be one or the other. And there is a way for you to be able to balance both. So when we come across these different misconceptions that people are saying, like, hey, you got to stay home with the baby in the first years or what have you, you can absolutely balance with time management and lots of other things that we'll jump into later on in the conversation.
Awesome. And I think that especially in the workplace, people they see you show up and that you're doing your best and they think, "Oh, you've got it together." They
Mhm.
don't know what all it took for you to be there, right? And show up in the fullest way to lead your team or what have you, drive conversations with investors wherever you are in your journey. People don't know what it takes to get there. They think it's easy,
Mhm.
right? They think that just because you may have a partner at home, it's like, well, you've got a husband or a spouse or whatever, you should be fine. And it's like, no.
No, because they have very separate lives as well. If they're career driven and they're doing their own thing, it's not always that you have that help in your spouse because they're doing their own thing as well. So it's just about finding that common ground. So.
I love that. And so folks, we're getting ready to get into our case study. So make sure you're grabbing your pen and paper. But I have one last question for you, Mykel, before we get into the case study.
Sure.
So do you have any particular experience that you would like to talk about when it comes to your personal journey with balancing life and leadership, being a founder? Because there's someone out there who's listening, who is sitting in the seat right now trying to figure out, what do I do? I'm at my wit's end. And so would love to hear if you have a personal experience you want to share.
Absolutely. And actually, when I started Muscle Up Mommy, it was based on my personal experience as a mom giving birth to twin girls. I felt like I was fed to the sharks. Quite honestly, I was had to thug it out. And my husband, he worked 14 hours at the car lot. He was in car sales at the time. And it led me to kind of feel like I had to juggle, but I also wanted to be this person that showed up fully as a mother, as the super mom mantra, and really being because I had already, built this face about myself that I could handle anything that was in front of me. And so I had my village, my mom, my sisters, my aunts were all very, very close knit. But the thing is, I felt a little biased when it came to asking them questions. And so
Huh.
because of that, I went online and I'm like, hey, I jumped in these private groups. Hey, I'm a mom, first time mom of twins. I'm feeling like I want to get out the house. But for some reason, everybody's like, oh, you got to be with the kids 24/7. Why do I feel like I want to break away? And that's when I started opening up the door to have real life conversations that you absolutely need a break. It's okay to step away from motherhood and come back feeling rejuvenated and with your cup full. And I think that that is an important dialogue to have. So if you are someone that's listening and you're dealing with the fact that you do want to be career driven, you are very high performing and high achieving, you don't have to choose. And as long as you have a village, even if you don't have it within your family, if you can build a village from your online community, that's going to be essential in order for you to kind of find your flow.
I love that, especially because there's some folks who are probably listening saying, "Hey, I don't have a village, right? It's
Yeah.
easy for you, Michael. You had mom and grandma and everybody." But to your point, right? If you don't have that today, what opportunity do you have to kind of build that yourself and say, "Okay, these may not be blood family members, but who do I have around me that wants to see me be successful and wants to support me?" And so I'm going to ask you a little bit of a curveball question before we get
Sure.
into the case study. So there are folks who are listening who are like, okay, I'm not a mom. I may be on the other side. I may be the husband or the spouse, and I'm feeling like I'm struggling as well with parenting, or they're just juggling multiple roles. So wanted to make sure that we talk to some of the other folks who are listening as well, who are like, hey, I'm not a mother, but I still feel like I'm juggling being a parent or being in two places at once or juggling multiple roles. So what are your thoughts for those folks?
I think just having that open line of communication is going to be very essential. I look at my own personal dynamic. My husband, he is an entrepreneur and he also partners with other companies. So sometimes he is out of the home for longer hours throughout the day, where it leads me to have to do the kind of nuances with getting the girls ready for school, picking them up, and doing all the after school activities. And if you are someone on that end of the spectrum where, like my husband, he's like, okay, I understand it's a lot. You want more time. You do feel like the default parent. How can I support you? So when you are looking at your situation, ask yourself very important questions like, where do I have time to free up? Is there anything that I can do to support you better in this role? And for your own sake, is there something that you can help or that your partner can help you with navigate that space?
Yep. I love that. I think we underestimate the importance of communication. We
Mhm.
underestimate the fact that sometimes you just need to have the open dialogue and say, "Hey, this is where I'm at. This is where you're at. Where do we find the common ground?" And I think that even works in the workplace, right? Like if you're trying to balance life and leadership, you may just have to talk to your team. You may just have to talk to your boss and just say, "Hey, this is where I'm at, and this is the support I need in this moment." And you can't be afraid to have that dialogue if you're really thinking about moving ahead in your career. I love that. All right, guys. So we're about to get into the case study. So I'm gonna, start to talk about it. So for those of you who like to take notes on the case study, let me just give you the background, and then we'll hop into the questions. So we have a challenge. So Alicia, she is the founder and CEO at a venture-backed tech startup, and they just closed their Series A round of funding. And so they're building her company's building a cutting edge platform in AI, and there's a lot of pressure for them to scale, make sure they have the right team, etc. Here's Alicia's challenge, though. She's also the mother of two young children who are ages 3 and 6, and her partner works full time. And so they're trying to share the work, but she often feels the weight of being the default parent, as we had talked about a little bit earlier. And so
Mhm.
she's passionate about building the successful company, especially since she just got the funding. But she also really wants to be a present parent. And so now she's feeling pulled in two directions. So over the past couple of months, Alicia has found that she is struggling to be fully present in both places because she's constantly having to switch gears and not feeling fully effective. And she's struggling to lead a team they're looking to her for direction and stability, but she's just feeling emotionally drained. And she's just questioning herself at this point. Can she even be a leader at this point with this fast paced, high stakes tech startup while she's trying to be a parent? And so she's worried about burning out. And it's not just about her own burnout, but it's also for her team because, again, she's trying to build a team for her tech startup.
Mhm.
And so that's the situation that Alicia is finding herself in, guys. So I don't know if you can identify with Alicia in any capacity, you can drop that in the chat for sure. And so thinking about that, Mykel, I want to just start with knowing what we know about Alicia at this point. How do you think that she personally can set the tone for a healthy, high performing culture at her tech startup without sacrificing her well being? Because she's got just all the balls in the air, right?
Mhm. I think it's important for her to kind of set those boundaries in place and set the expectation. I think when you're very open and honest and, very forthcoming with what you're dealing with and what you're up against, it's easy for people to fall in line and fall into spaces where there may be gaps. And when you're hiring people and you brought them on, let's say you have a CMO that's doing all of your marketing, or you have someone that's over your social media team that's doing the posting and engaging for you. If you let them know, like, hey, between the hours of 2 and 6, I got to get the kids from school, I got to take them to dance, I got to take them to, after school extracurriculars, it allows them to say, okay, I need to be present during these hours. So just being open, letting them know what the expectations are, I think that that would alleviate a lot of the pressure on her from feeling like she has to do it all on her
I love that. Just letting people know up front. And it's not a sign of weakness. I think especially, when you're a leadership role, you feel like I can't show any cracks in the armor. But if you let people know that, hey, I have a life that I'm excited about building this company, but this is not all there is to me. I have to take care of my kids, or I have to take care of an aging parent. I have other responsibilities.
Mhm.
Your team is likely going to be understanding. And I think the other piece of that is it gives people permission too. Like if they see Mykel that or Alicia, they're like, you're doing it, I can do it too.
Do it
It's
too.
okay
Yeah.
for me to have balance. So I love that. So it sounds like she's got to set some expectations. And you mentioned setting boundaries. So I'm going to push you a little bit. So what are some of the actual boundaries or systems that she could put in place to help protect her energy and model, sustainable leadership? So what specific things could she employ, do you think?
I think number one is setting work hours for herself. Like, this is the hour that I'm going to start at. This is the hour that I'm going to end at. And then also setting an hour for, this is family time. I have this meeting at this time, or I have this self care hour. Knowing exactly what her day is going to look like is going to allow her to then take said agenda to the people that should be in those spaces that would allow them to show up. So, for example, if she has her work hours between 8 and 5. Well, yeah, you can call at 6 o'clock if there's something dire that you need to be answered. But if her phone's on do not disturb, or she has the idea that, okay, from after 5 o'clock, I'm with family, it allows her to switch those roles and be able to balance more freely.
I love that. I think we underestimate the power of taking back control of our calendars,
Yes.
right?
And not always being readily available.
Yes, and I think that especially when you're in leadership, that it's so important for you to set the tone that I'm not going to be on 24/7. This is not a
Yeah.
fire station, right?
Yeah.
We are not on call 24 hours a day for whatever we're doing. And so for those of you who are listening, I hope that you're taking in what Mykel is sharing with you, taking back control of your calendar, setting the time. And yes, there's going to be fires, right? Everything's not always going to be pristine, but you want to make sure that that's the exception, not the rule. So I
Mhm.
I really really love that. So as we think about that, right? So she has a lot of work to do. It sounds like up front, Alicia has to set, the boundaries, and she has to put in the things from a calendar standpoint, really being intentional and communicating with her team. But we also have to keep in mind that she's got investors on the hook now. She's got investors on the hook now, and then she's got other members of her leadership team. And so they're looking at her to run and go and grow. And so, how do you think she can reframe the conversations with them to normalize this level of flexibility and balance without seeming like, okay, she's trying to skate by or anything like that?
Um, that is a really good question. Repeat that last part for me just one more time.
Yeah, so given that she's trying to balance now with her team and trying to set the tone and culture, when it comes to her investors and those who are around her who are looking for her to grow and scale, how can she have the conversations with them about, hey, it's okay for me to have this flexibility I need and this balance without seeming like, hey, she's trying to skate by or she's less committed.
I think it's important to understand that investors are typically there on a financial aspect. They're not there to make decisions in the business. And in order for you to move the business from point A to point B, you have to be mentally sound, and you have to be able to pour from a full cup from leadership on down. And the only aspect is that you are meeting those commitments in whatever contract you sign with that investing company. And so, as long as she's saying, hey, this is what's going on with the team internally, and then she'll then go back to the investors and get them any reports that they need. As long as she's not missing any deliverables, I don't think that she should put that additional pressure on herself. I don't.
Mm.
And it's also important to note that every season there can be a shift. You may be someone that's in a slow season. If you just had a baby, or if you have a sick parent, or if something changes with your household and you have to navigate that, it's okay to be in a different season. Not every season is going to be like super fast paced, super uptick. So just being able to navigate those changes in a way where it doesn't put so much pressure on yourself to be like, okay, I'm not less committed, but I have to be here every mom typically knows that at the start of your day, you could have an agenda. And by the end of the day, you've had to move pieces around just to make sure that it all gets done. And that's okay.
Man, I think that there's something so powerful to that you just mentioned, that you're not always going to be in this fast-paced, crazy season, right? That it's okay if you need to slow down and take a minute.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're not a mom, but you feel like you just have a lot of moving parts, it's okay to say that, hey, this season I need to just take a step back, breathe. I'm not failing.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I'm not doing enough, but maybe I just need to take a minute. Maybe I just need to take a beat. That's okay. And giving yourself the grace and space. That's the big thing. I don't think we give ourselves enough grace. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Mykel, in terms of
No,
giving.
I definitely agree. I think that as a leader, sometimes we can overthink it very much so, especially when you're looking at social media and seeing, different pieces of the puzzle moving around and it's seemingly moving faster than where you particularly are. And so I think that once you give yourself grace and allow yourself to know that it's okay to be full in as a CEO on Monday, and it's okay to be full in as a mom or a parent or someone that's in leadership on a Tuesday, you may have to navigate differently, and that's okay. That just means that you are an excellent leader. You know how to handle high pressure situations and you can keep it moving. And that just validates what you're doing.
I love that, and so I'm gonna push a little bit harder.
Sure.
So there are folks who are listening who are saying that, hey, Mykel, I just got into my VP position. I just got into the C-suite. The idea of setting boundaries, I'm nervous about that because they're going to think I can't cut it. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. So I'm nervous about speaking up the way that you've mentioned. What would you be saying to those women who are, or men, because there may be men who are feeling like, hey, I'm taking on this role, and I don't know if they're going to think I can't cut it. What would you say to those folks?
I would say each day you walk into the office or you walk into your workspace, you give 100% of what you have that day to give. And if you feel at any point that you're not showing up the way that you know that you can, if you're not comfortable with setting boundaries or setting expectations for yourself, go to, your leadership, because everyone has somebody that they are answering to in some capacity. Go to them and just ask them, hey, am I doing everything that you want me to do in this moment? Like right now, I'm a mom. I know you can hear baby. Hi, baby. So it's one of those things where you have to take off the hat. And if you're not 100% comfortable, you can always just ask, say, hey, am I doing or am I performing the way that you are expecting me to? And it's okay.
And I think that what's really important about that is having that dialogue once again, right? It's going and talking to someone. I think too
Mhm.
often we put the pressure on ourselves and we assume that people want us to show up as a perfect superhero, right?
Exactly.
And the truth is, everyone has gone through a season in their life.
Mhm.
And if you were willing to just go and talk to someone and say, "Hey, this is what I'm dealing with," they would likely just have the conversation with you and say, hey, so what do we need to do? And there may be expectations that are set or deadlines that you can't miss, but typically people will at least sit around the table with you and
Yeah,
say, what solution can we come up with versus no, be perfect, get everything done
absolutely.
yesterday, right?
Yeah. Not only that, opening and having that dialogue, there's always someone that you talk to that may have the same experience that you're dealing with now, and they can coach you through it. So instead of you turning
Mm.
internally and trying to figure it out, somebody might have the keys dangling right in front of you, like, oh my God, I needed this information. So just be open, be honest, and it's okay. Don't feel like you have to be embarrassed about your situation. Everybody is human.
And you know where I think we got a little bit more exposure to that was during the pandemic, right?
Yes.
Where we all were on Zoom, just holding our lives together, right? People have got their kids, their dog, and we're all just trying our best. And so I
Mhm.
think in a post-COVID world, I feel, or post-COVID is let's use quotes there, but I think in people are even more understanding now than they had been because they understand that, hey, life is lifing for all of us, to use the common vernacular, right? Like we're all
Yeah.
just doing our best. And so having a conversation about what you may need is is okay. No one's expecting you to show up perfectly. And I wanted to highlight a comment from Paul here, who says, giving yourself grace in hard seasons is good because that's something he's seeking to be more intentional about in the last year. I think we all could benefit from giving ourselves a little bit more grace, and it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum, right? It's not just, hey, if you're a first time, leader, that, hey, you give yourself grace. Wherever you are on the leadership spectrum, you've got to give yourself grace, or else you're going to
Yeah.
always beat yourself up over every mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming up on the last question here, because I know you've got to get back to the family, I wanted to ask you, what mindset shifts do you think Alicia might need to make to lead from a place of alignment, not constant overextension? Ooh, that's a good question.
Ooh.
That's a good question.
Oh, wow. And not constant overextension.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is okay to ask for help. If you feel like you are somebody who is just coming from a place of I'm struggling, I feel like I'm drowning, it's okay to ask for help. And that's not going to make you overextend in areas where you know that you need someone else to pick up the slack. And I know that there is sometimes a misconception that when you ask for help, it makes you weak or it makes you lesser than in some capacity. And it's the exact opposite. When you are someone who has the ability to speak up and say, listen, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. I need someone to help me on this. Let's partner, let's team together. You'll actually get done a lot faster. You'll be able to pour into yourself a lot more. And then you'll make time for that self-care, which is definitely essential, especially in a leadership position.
And I think, sometimes when we think about asking for help, it's like, okay, do we need to go and ask our boss for help? But sometimes it's, if you've got a team that, like Alicia's building a team, and so for those who are listening, perhaps you don't have a startup, but you have a large team in your organization. Going to people and asking for help is okay. I think about when I was leading a team in Argentina, I had managers who were reporting to me, and sometimes if I was sick or if something else was going on, I'm like, guys, I don't have it. Can you guys finish this deck for me? Or can you guys get this done? And they're like, yep, Julie, we'll gear it up for you so that you can come back and review it, go get some rest or what have you. So it doesn't always have to be something earth shattering. It may just be that, hey, you just need some supplemental support as you try to reset. And the one thing I think that also does is, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, is it gives your team the feeling that, hey, we're a part of this, right? That, hey, we
Yes.
can actually add more value. Not sure if you've seen that in your organization.
Yes. And another thing too that you can kind of put in your brain is that you can always ask for help from the bottom up. It doesn't have to be going to your boss or going to a superior. Let's say you have an intern that's coming in or someone that is, newly fresh at the company and they're looking to be in a leadership position at some point. You can use that opportunity to ask for help, especially if they don't have that much on their plate. And it gives them an opportunity to learn from you, get additional skill set, and that helps your superior or the manager in higher leadership position saying, hey, when the company restructures and we're looking for growth and we want to look to promote someone, you've now lended training to someone who has been looking to move up. So there's always opportunity in different ways to look at how you can leverage asking for help as well.
I love that, especially looking at folks who are new in the organization, because I think that is slightly overlooked because that's almost like de facto mentorship apprenticeship,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Where it's like it's not we've had this formal I am your mentor meeting, but it's more so that, hey, I need your help on this. And so this person has direct access to you. They get insights from you as they're getting some level of guidance. So like when you said, when an opportunity comes
Yeah.
up, you can put their name in the hat because that you've been guiding them and they've been able to learn and you've seen their work product. So that's a good thing. I hope you guys are taking notes, y'all.
Yeah.
We've been
Take
sharing
from
a
this.
we've been sharing a lot about Alicia's situation, but for those of you that are listening, asking for help when it comes to balancing life and leadership, no matter where you are in the organization, is so important. And so as we're wrapping up here, I do have one last kind of thought or question. Thinking about all of everything we've talked about, if Alicia was sitting here with you, because I'm sure there's some Alicia version of Alicia who's listening today, what would be your final words of advice to her?
That you're doing great. Don't second guess yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Don't feel as though because you can't show up 100% on 7 days of the week that you're not showing up the way that you should. It is okay to slow down. It is okay to pivot. It is okay to wake up one day and say, you know what? I need a day off from this and I need to ask for help. Just communicating is going to be your best friend when it comes to making sure that things get done in the event that you have to step away for whatever reason in any capacity.
I love that. It's like, you are doing great. I feel like I needed to hear that. And I don't,
Yeah, you got to get that reassurance.
I'm telling him like, okay, I am doing great. I am doing great. Okay. And so guys, we're about to wrap up. So if you do have any last questions for myself or Mykel, please go ahead and drop those. But before we close out, Mykel, a little birdie told me that you are having an event, and I'm also in Houston. So a little birdie told me that you are having an event on May 4th. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm actually hosting an elevated mommy mixer.
Okay.
It is for moms, entrepreneurs, business professionals, content creators. Even if you're in the creative space, you definitely want to come be in the room and connect. There's going to be unparalleled connections. We're going to have guided wine pairings from Pure Noir's event staff, and then also just lots of conversation around how to balance motherhood, leadership, switching into new industries, and just if you're new in the area as well, just meeting people who can help pour into the season that you're in. So definitely come out.
Oh man. All right. So for those of you who are watching from other locations, this is for folks from Houston. But if you want to come into Houston,
If you want to travel.
come in and join us. But for the Houston folks as well, so this is May 4th, the Elevated Mommy Mixer. So if you're an entrepreneur, mom, trying to juggle life and leadership, this is the place that you would want to be on May 4th. And so thank you, Mykel, for all of your insights and perspectives this evening. If people want to learn more about you, partner with you, what have you, how can the folks get in touch with you?
Number one, if you are looking to come to the Elevated Mommy Mixer, you can find tickets on my website, muscleupmommy.com. If you are looking to get in touch with me directly for any business inquiries or have any questions, you can email me at mykel@muscleupmommy.com. And then also find me across all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Mykel B. Davis. And then on YouTube, I'm under my brand name, Muscle Up Mommy.
Awesome. So you guys heard it here, where you can go ahead and get connected with Mykel. Thank you again for such a rich and powerful conversation. I hope that I got so much out of it. I hope that for all the listeners, I hope that you took notes, something that you can take back, not just for yourself, but even folks on your team. For folks who may be struggling, or if you have colleagues or people you're mentoring who may be struggling with life and leadership, hope that you took some notes to share with them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. We appreciate you watching The Career Climb. Have a great evening. Thank you, guys.
Bye.